Honourable Winston Peters.
Mr Speaker, New Zealand First reiterates everything it said in the second reading of this bill. This is the judgment from Williams J, and it's very clear what he has said. He said this: I understand from Crown Counsel it is expected that the bill will receive its third reading in July this year. He goes on to say, in those circumstances there is little now to be gained from requiring the tribunal to reconsider the application, perhaps to see the tribunal commence preparations for an inquiry into the effect of the Tuhoe deed on Ngāti Ruapane's treaty interests. The government has signalled that in 2 months the bill will be law. Now, I noticed that the minister in charge rushed out to give an interpretation to that to the media and to hasten to assure Māoridom and the rest of the country that believes in true process that the government had not made a mistake here. You see, when the judge made that statement, the government has signalled that in 2 months the bill will be law, he himself had no confidence that the government would be deterred from its course and its arranged deed of settlement. But that is not the case, because this is the time, at the committee stages of the whole House, and this is the place for this matter to be corrected. It is no sense, surely, to try and set right a long historical wrong that has been the fate of Tuhoe, and yet create another one. And anyone who knows anything about legal process when it comes to Maori matters knows full well that once the boundaries have been set in a certain way, all sorts of assurances of the type that the minister has given, both here and up in Ngāpuhi, are not worth the air they pass on. That is the effect of those matters, and as someone who studied my land court cases going back 100 years, once the thing has been set in stone, it largely remains there, and it's only with enormous time and cost and perseverance can someone have that wrong corrected. This is the place at the House Committee of the whole House to set this matter right. And I think that lining up behind such an authority as Sir Apana Ngata is more authoritative than the whole treaty process and the settlement process and, might I say it, the minister's officials and, may I say it also, the minister. Because if he is prepared to say now that he knows more about this matter than someone so esteemed in that part of the world, indeed all of Māoridom, as Apana Ngata, then it shows you just how sad parts of the Waitangi settlement process have become. Now, I know up north the minister is now being besieged by fact. And there's no use going out and saying, well, all you're doing, New Zealand First, is holding back these people from getting their rightful grievance settled and compensation. That, of course, is really a red herring. What's more important here is that two tribes, recognised long before Ngata's famous statement in 1929, are as now today what they always were, tribes in that area. And when I hear someone shade and say to me that Tuhoe had rights to the Ohiwa Harbour, as someone who lived on the coast in a tribe called Ngāti Wai all my life, I know exactly what that means. What you've got is a customary tradition that was allowed to inland tribes now to become set in law as an ownership right, and that's the fact. And we are not falling for it. New Zealand First is not opposed to in any way the settlement to Tuhoe on this matter, not at all. But we are opposed to the boundaries being incorrect. And when Justice Williams said that the bill was going to be passed, will receive its third reading in July this year, he himself, with great respect to him, missed the point. This is Parliament. This is Parliament's bill. This, in the end, will be given the authority and stamp of Parliament, and Parliament can set it right. And I don't have any desire to challenge those who sat on the Select Committee. But why didn't they ask themselves that fundamental question? Are we doing the right thing here, and are we impinging on the possibilities of these two important tribes, Mr. Speaker.
Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a very important matter. Are we impinging on the possibility of these two important tribes getting their grievance fixed, yes or no? And we are. That is down the history of Maoridom, the long tragic story of a settlement by governments or settlement by a court that was based on faulty information and not based on fact. And anyone who knows anything about Maoridom knows this. Of course, it might be that Tuhoe got to New Zealand or the centre of the North Island before the people I'm talking about. Well, of course they did. They must have come by helicopter or by spaceship. Because usually, I see that a woman over there frowning from Christchurch who knows nothing about this issue. It's appalling how they could be so darn arrogant. But unless they came by spaceship or by helicopter, then it could be assumed that people left the coast later than the original settlement and went inland. Where's my proof? Well, my proof is in historical travel. Do you know how, for example, do you think Ngāti Hine got to our part of the world before Ngāti Wai? Oh, yes. Do you think that the two people, the tribes at Urewera got there before Tuhoe? Oh, so obviously they came by spaceship. Because usually people don't go inland. They don't go inland from fish and a land of plenty to fewer fish. Of course there were trading arrangements. That's my very point. But the people on the coast never gave up their right. That's my evidence. And quite a few more court cases in the land law going back into the 70s when this whole issue began. In fact, I was there at the time that the Maori Land March started in a meeting up in Ngāti Wai by Whina Cooper when she said, I know what I'll do. I'll start a Maori Land March. I'm talking 1975. And we should not ignore history in any way, shape or form. You see, the Treaty Minister, Mr Finlayson, is correct. There has been a misunderstanding about the Tuhoe settlement. And he is right, there is confusion. But the Minister is the one who is confused on this issue. And with the greatest respect, how is he going to confront those other two tribes in the future and say he's done his duty by them? How can you come along and say, oh, look, don't worry, none of this impinges upon your rights in any way, shape or form? We wrote to the Minister when this bill first came along, saying, in way of inquiry, are you not concerned about this boundary issue? And of course we got the usual reply, oh, there's nothing for those people to worry about because none of their rights or claims are in any way upset. Really? Well, why don't you go and ask those people how they feel, because they don't feel like you do, Minister. And with the greatest respect to those people who sat on the Maori First State Committee, why did they not listen to what these people had to say? Why didn't they listen to that message that was passed down through history from someone as esteemed as Sir Apana Ngata when he recognised them for what they were? So how can they be now today, because of this legislation and because of this Parliament's attitude, a lesser people?
Mr Chairman.
Honourable Chris Finlayson.
I think it may be helpful if I just take the member through the bill, because actually the word